We're gonna drop it like this.
Yeah.
This call is being recorded.
Okay, now I'm going to do a small reading on gang stalking, and we're looking to move into stalking technology and how phones are hacked, electronic devices, computers, people's emails have been tampered with. Basically, anything in the digital world has been manipulated and been tampered with by these sort of by these stalking networks, right? These people who are basically paid to mess with people. I mean, that's that's basically the crust of it. But okay, gang stalking is an umbrella term describing a series of techniques utilized by a group to instill mental instability within a victim with the intent to discredit, sabotage, harass, extort, and even drive the victim to suicide. A victim of gang stalking can have their reputation, credibility, careers, relationships, and entire life put into ruins. Techniques such as mind games, perception manipulation, organized stalking, covert harassment, constant surveillance, and possibly electronic harassment are used to push a victim to mental instability. Proving one's targeting can be very challenging, and there is very little law enforcement support, which allows gang stalking to be extremely effective. Okay, the reading's finished. How accurate do you feel that reading was pertaining to gang stalking?
I feel it's fairly accurate because some people experience like
everything under that umbrella for gang stalking, and some people only experience half of it or parts of it, but it's still gang stalking, and yeah, the end goal is to either have us in institutions, in jail, or commit suicide. So I feel it's fairly accurate.
Right, or push somebody possibly to kill somebody else, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just want to comment a little bit further on the reading. When we say mind games, you know, that gets involved with mimicking things like how you go and you talk to somebody. They will get people who look like that person throughout the day to follow you around, and it won't even be the person, or it most of the time they will include the person in the mimicking anyway. They will contact that person, provide that person with a disinformational story about the target. Then they will finance them to follow the target around, sometime multiple times a day, which is organized, which is stalking. But then they will have other people who look like that person follow the target around as well. So that's a distortion of that's mind games, and that's a perception manipulation. They're manipulating the person's reality.
And doesn't that gaslighting fit in that category too?
Oh yeah, definitely. Perception manipulation, yeah, gaslighting. Somebody can leave their house and walk down the street in broad daylight, and oftentimes a community watch group will be issuing out, gang stalking to the individual, and it will be networked for all the neighbors to turn their lights on in broad daylight outside their house just to mess with the person's mind. And they may be telling those people they're doing it for some other reason, but the fact is, most of the people involved with it pretty much get the gist that it's there to mess with the person that they're targeting. I think it's obvious to most people their only position is to damage somebody. That's all they're there for, is to damage and hurt this person, hurt their mind. And so yeah, gaslighting falls into that. And then the technique of brightening, where an individual goes out into the community or travels across state or country, and they're followed by cars who have their lights on in broad daylight all day long, 24/7, 7 days a week, around 30 days a month, 365 days a year. You got to imagine that does change somebody's perception of reality, right? You've gone through this. How do you feel?
To that, to where, and I wanted to know what your knowledge is on this. Some people say, well, most modern cars, the daytime lights run all day long. What do you say to that?
Well, what I say to it is, okay, but do the parking lights come on automatically? Do the emergency lights come on automatically? Do the fog lights come on automatically? Huh?
And the fog lights?
Yeah, the fog lights, no. The brake lights do not come on automatic. The emergency lights don't come on. The brake lights don't come on. The fog lights don't come on automatically. These are also, manually done. A lot of cars will have one headlight on it to begin with, and that'll be set up. That'll be pre-planned. Some cars, the headlights do naturally come on in the daytime, but before I started getting gang stalk, I never paid attention to cars with headlights on. And if you're walking down the street and 8 out of 10 cars have their lights on and they're following you, there's something wrong. And we're not just talking about modern cars. We're talking about like old cars from like the 80s and 70s and before that, up to the 90s, mopeds with one light on. People will actually go as far to manipulate objects such as flashlights. There has been gang stalking assignments where people will use flashlights in broad daylight. Any element of light, any element that's projecting light will be used. And any sort of object or anything like a car or whatever will be used. Motorcycle lights. I've seen a lot of motorcycles who they do not come on automatically. They're manually turned on, and they use the brightening tactic. I've even seen planes. Now this may go over most people's heads, but I live near an airport, and I have literally seen airplanes buzzing above me during the daytime with their lights on in broad daylight. I've never in my life, and Rachel, I'm not exaggerating. I'm 30. I'm about to be 33 years old, and I started seeing this 2 summers ago, and I had never before seen airplanes with their brights on in broad daylight. I never in my life saw that. Never. When I started, yeah, when I started 2 summers ago, I remember seeing airplanes, big commercial planes and smaller planes, purposely buzzing around with their brights on in broad daylight, and I had never seen that before. And that was pretty intimidating to see something like that. Very deep psychological stuff. But I film cars all the time doing it. Like I'll see U-Haul trucks next to post office trucks, next to I've seen police do it a lot. I've seen drug dealers do it a lot. I've seen, what I mean? I go over into some neighborhoods, where it's kind of scandalous, and I see all of them participating in it. And, there's just some people who I know would not drive with their headlights on unless they were asked to. And so I've seen it a lot. I've seen the gang stalking network this a lot.
And then at nighttime, when everyone's lights should be on, is it they have their brights on?
Yeah, well, they'll also blink the lights at you. And I've had people blink lights at me in broad daylight, and I've had people blink their lights at me at night. I've seen semi trucks do it where they will blink their lights on me in broad daylight, like big, huge trucks, where they don't come on automatically, and they will do that at night a lot and in the daytime a lot. And they play games with you at night. And I want to go back to the brightening. Not only will you have people following you in cars with their brights on, but you will also have psychological mind games being played, because this is when the color coding comes in the picture. They will use cars with certain colors, then they'll have another car follow that car from behind, or that car, have somebody in it with a certain colored shirt. So the color stalking is heavily involved with the brightening. So not only does a target of gang stalking get followed by cars with their headlights on all day, but the people in the cars are specifically wearing certain color shirts, and they're in league going down the street with certain color cars behind them and in front of them. Then they will actually mimic you by having certain individuals that or look like people that driving the cars or in the cars. So you're getting brightening, color stalking, mimicking, like you're getting, you know what I mean? It's like they give it to you in like a whole package deal sometimes.
Yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming.
Right. Absolutely. And then covert drugging comes into place. There's people who deal with this. They go out to eat. They eat their food. They leave the restaurant. They've been covertly drugged, which when it's happened to me, I feel very sick. Like I was passing out. I didn't know if I was dying or not. That's happened. These are true to life criminal organizations. Like this stuff is criminal all the way through. There's no question about it. They create noise campaigns and stuff. They do all this, but what we were getting into was the hacking. A lot of people have had problems with their electronics, where they go get a cell phone and their phone is being used against them. Their technology is being used against them. You've had experience with that. What's that about? How does that feel?
It's really, really frustrating because at first I thought, well, maybe my identity just got stolen, or maybe I need to get a new phone. Maybe I just pissed someone off, and they put spyware on my phone, or this, that, the other thing. But when you get to your 10th phone and you realize it's been about 5 years since you've had a device that was unhacked, it's very, very frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating. I can remember when I first started having my phone hacked, I didn't really know what all came with gang stalking. This was not long after I discovered that there was something going on, and I started figuring out that I was being followed by people with the bright lights. I started to see mostly black cars, and then I started to realize that there's a pattern to this, that even though it's very compartmentalized, there's a pattern to it. And this is at a point to where my phone began to get messed with. There was a woman I was going to visit. I was walking over to her place, and I was texting her, and she was giving me her address of where to go, right? And so I'm all excited and stuff, and then I start typing on my phone, like texting her, and however they're doing this, I'm not sure, but they're messing it up. So as I'm texting, they're hitting buttons. This was like a Verizon Razor phone touchscreen. So I'm touching the buttons, typing, and then they're using the technology where it's like they have a clone of my phone somewhere, and they can mess with my phone, so it makes it look like I'm typing certain buttons, but I'm not touching the screen, and they're typing it. Then they can make the screen shake. Does that sound familiar at all?
Oh yeah, that happens to me too. Or they go in and mess with my autocorrect settings. So, I'm used to hitting the space bar between each word, and then they disable the space bar to auto space. So, it affects my whole rhythm. And then, yeah, I've also experienced them trying to type something at the same time I'm trying to type something.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is very frustrating. And people have to remember that, every asset of the person's life is being invaded. Not only are they being stalked by people on the streets, who oftentimes, especially for the women, such as yourself, Rachel, is very intimidating to have strange men following you everywhere, and oftentimes these men carry themselves like they have intentions to harm you, so you don't know if you're going
And
to
I
get
want
beat
to
up.
throw one thing out there to people that goes along with this. If you turn, everyone recommends you turn your location off on your phone, right? But be
Right.
sure to check back on it after you turn it off, because they do turn it back on. You'll think it's off, and sure enough, 15 minutes after you turned it off, they turn it right back on. So keep an eye on that, guys.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They can turn it back on. And I want to stress the point that, a lot of times women, and 70% of the people being gang stalked are women, they're being followed around by shady characters, guys who look like they may going to beat them up or rape them, or steal their purse or run away or something. And it's usually unsafe experience for a woman. And then you have this weird thing with the color stalking, people creating unnecessary noise. They may be getting drugged, electronic weapons, gaslighting, street theater, which we need to get into that too, because the public really doesn't understand anything about street theater. But then now their phones are being hacked. So people are being bombarded in every aspect of their life, and their friends are being approached and asked to participate in this in various ways. Their neighbors are participating in it. Their families participating in it. Their coworkers are participating in it. People are being targeted and damaged and hurt in every single aspect of their life. And now the one thing they have, their phone, now that's being messed with. So I'm trying to put into perspective so people get it. These are people who are their minds are being messed with, they're being damaged, they're being threatened, they're being tortured in every single way imaginable. Would you say that was an accurate estimate of what's happening here?
Yeah, it's not a small thing at all.
Right. Right. And so any little vestige of safety that the person feels they have is taken from them. I mean, their whole life is under full attack. And, then at the end of it, when they do go to the police for help, they're either laughed at or told there's nothing that the police can not help them, or in some cases the police are involved in it. And so there's no safety measure for the person. So the person becomes prone to like things like suicide or psychotic shock or harming somebody else or, whatever. And if you don't mind, Rachel, I'm going to do a quick reading. I'm going to
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
read some of the, okay. This is somebody who left a comment on this article, and their title, their name, it says, "Been gang stalked." And they say, "I experienced cell phone jamming, but not outright hacking of my stuff. It was one of the ways they pressed on my depression. I'm sure electronic harassment happens, and I'm sure there are steps you can take to prevent or stimulate it. I just don't know what they are." Now, cell phone jamming happens a lot, and there's different sorts of ways they do cell phone jamming, I believe, but they also have a way which they can play with your phone and affect the way you hear and listen to people. Like, I remember there were several conversations I had with targets of gang stalking where I was counseling them, and I would be talking on the phone, and my phone would be echoing my voice back to me. but the other person could not hear it. Only I could hear it. And I still don't know how that was happening. And then vice versa, I'd be talking on the phone with people, their voice would be echoed to them, but I wouldn't hear it. And I knew they were telling the truth because it already happened to me.
I've experienced something like that, but even a step further, I've had my calls intercepted, and the person who's supposed to be on the other end is not who I think they are. Like, I once had someone impersonate my fiance and my kid, so I think I'm talking to my family, and I'm not. That's the spooky part.
That is really spooky. I have not heard anybody say that. You mean you spoke on the phone with somebody who was impersonating somebody you know? Especially your
Yeah,
husband?
quite a few times actually. Or like I try to call like the DSHS, helpline to check on my Obama phone because obviously I don't get any mail that I'm supposed to get, right? So yeah, I go to check in on my Obama phone and it's like some dude just pretending to work there. Because I was sitting down, I was trying to eat my salad at dinner time, but I'm trying not to crunch, while I'm talking to him. And it seemed like every time I would put, the fork up to my mouth, he'd ask me my address again for like the 15th time. But then, like, I'm sitting there waiting patiently for him to ask his next question, and he's not asking anything. It's like he's live in the room with me and knows what I'm doing. And of course, like, I call back the next day, ask for this dude, and he doesn't exist there. So obviously, I wasn't talking to anyone at an actual DSHS office.
Yeah, I remember I was on a phone call. I had a website up regarding gang stalking, matter of fact, and I was talking to the guy, one of the guys who worked at the company I was getting web space from, and he kept coughing at specific times. Like, and I could tell by the way he was coughing it wasn't a fake cough. But
Yeah, that
you know,
pisses
that
me
was
off. I hate the fake coughs. I hate those.
yeah, yeah. That's something people actually mention a lot. Is people always ask me, "Don't you hate it when they cough?" And it's
That
little
was the
stuff like
very,
that.
very, 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 very first gang stalking thing that happened to me was the cough. Like people, I swear, were literally in the bushes around my house coughing at inopportune times.
Right, absolutely. I want to bring up too that a lot of people know, a lot of people are being threatened, they're being terrified. They're just downright being terrorized, and they know that their phone calls are being listened to. And I've talked to a lot of people who knew that the people who were terrorizing them were listening to their phone call, and they were afraid to talk on their phone about what was going on out of retribution. I mean, they're already being terrorized, and now they believe if they talk about the terrorism that's happening to them, they're going to be further terrorized. Would you say there's a lot of paranoia that people have about talking freely on their phone, especially about the terrorism that's happening to them?
Oh, yeah, I was hesitant at first, but then I saw a couple of people on the YouTube channel say that, well, they might ramp it up a little bit, or they might make it different. But
Mhm.
if you've been on the border of killing yourself or hurting someone else or, just, having a psychotic break, or if you've been on the edge of any of those types of things, it can't get any worse than that. So if you've already been there, then that's the worst it's going to get. And since I started speaking out, they do like, they've ramped up the gang stalking a little bit, but it's nothing to the point where I thought it would be.
Right, right. And Rachel, I really got to commend you for that. I mean, you've only known about it for a week and a half, and you've been a trailblazer since then. I think we sat down a few days ago, about a week ago, and we decided that we would do a sponsorship type situation where I would sponsor you, like bringing you into what I'm doing. I'm teaching you. Of course, you're teaching me. I've learned a lot from you in the last week. And like it seems like every other day you've been stepping it up more and more and more and growing, and you're the fastest moving target of gang stalking I've ever dealt with. And it's like now you're even coming out here now to meet with me, and we're both going to be getting gang stalked in person, doing educational courses on it, laying that down for people. And I just got to commend you on that. And you have put fear in the back seat, so to speak. And for most women, that's really hard to do. And I think I told you earlier, it's like the women are becoming the men, and the men are becoming the women. Most of the men act like women. They're in way more fear, and it seems like the women have been stepping up a lot more. You know?
Yeah. Well, when you don't have much to lose, like it doesn't seem that scary.
Right, right. Absolutely. I'm gonna do a short reading if that's okay with you, Rachel, about gang stalking. I mean, about the cell phone hacking.
Sure.
Okay, now the title of this article is "How Does a Criminal Hack a Cell Phone?" And I want to make one point here. Usually, when we talk about criminals, usually when somebody says a criminal, somebody's thinking about somebody who's going to steal your car stereo, or somebody who's selling drugs, or somebody who's going to go out and shoot somebody because they don't like them or something. We can never forget that people like Pol Pot, the leader of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, who slaughtered millions of people, was a criminal. Adolf Hitler was a criminal. Adolf Hitler went to the penitentiary for 9 months, and he wrote his book Mein Kampf, and came out of the penitentiary and created a cult and took over the whole continent. Straight criminal. Joseph Stalin, straight criminal. Idi Amin of Uganda, straight criminal. Castro. These people, just because people appear to be in positions of law and authority, does not mean that they're not criminals. So a lot of times people get the misconception of leaders and misleaders and what a criminal actually is. And so, why people are worried about some guy on the corner selling drugs, there's people out there systematically stalking people and drugging their food and using electronic weapons on them, creating gigantic disinformation stories, messing with their minds, neuro-linguistic programming and stuff. I mean, these are heinous criminal acts. And so I just want to say that right there. So when people say criminal, they don't really get the gist of it. But now, stalking technology and hacking technology is utilized by these networks immensely. And how does a criminal hack a cell phone? Well, okay, most people would be truly alarmed if they understood how easily criminals can hack into their cell phones and retrieve personal and potentially damaging information. Criminals today have devices that allow them to hack into your cell phone with just your phone number. In fact, with this technology, they can also listen to your calls, read your emails, text message, access your photos, and any other information you store on your phone. They can even retrieve your password to your online bank account. Now, I know for me, through gang stalking, I would be calling people on the phone, talking to them, and the street terrorist would be listening to my phone call, and then they would go out and hire people. They would either hire the people I was talking to on the phone sometimes, or they would hire people who looked like those people to stalk me the next day. And so these people are reading my text messages, listening to my phone calls, all this stuff. How do you feel about that? The reading.
I've heard about that. I've heard it's very, very easy to hack a cell phone. And that's why, like, people do not let your cell phones out of your sight because, like Jamil said, there is hackware out there that you just need the phone number. That's all you need. And, they have keystroke technology to guess your passwords on laptops and stuff like that. And they do even have access to your photos because I've had my photos edited. Like, they've colored my face in red. They've drawn a dagger going into my eyeball. They've like put suggestive sexual like silhouettes and like the shadows are on the reflection of my glasses. I guess they have fun with it.
Right, absolutely. Now, I mean, it's almost like, these stalking networks, they make The Godfather look like Sanford and Son almost. When we talk about the technology that's being utilized, what I want to ask you.
Ridiculous stuff. I'm like, ooh, someone drew a dick on my face. You know what I mean? It's like 13-year-old prankster stuff almost sometimes.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. Now, one of the questions I had for you is there is stalking technology, and there are these hackers and these people who can utilize this stuff, right? And as we go into the digital age, there's going to be more criminal activity in the digital age online. And what do you think about the idea of some of these people perhaps being at our own cell phone companies? Maybe sometimes this is being networked from our own phone company, where the people we're financing, phone space from these phone, our phone bill from, paying our phone bill to. Maybe these people behind the scenes are involved in this. That's why it's so easy for them. Do you think that could possibly be a part of it?
Oh, I'm sure of it, because I've tried to go get records of my, my cell phone records and stuff like that, and hit every speed bump along the way. Of course, there's people there that are in on it. They probably tell people to go get jobs there just so they can be in on it.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Very, very good point. Okay, now encrypt your calls and messages, preventing hackers, competitors, and others from accessing them. While hacked phones and communications is a concern for individuals, it is a major concern for enterprises and SMBs worldwide as well. Mobile phones today are used across businesses, and sensitive corporate data is shared daily, over calls and messages, as well as stored on devices. A hacked phone can mean significant loss of intellectual property, financial data, customer information, HR data, executive protection, physical safety, business strategy, investments, transactions, and much more. Now, after reading that, the first thing I think about is corporate espionage.
Hmm. I'm not quite familiar with that. What is that?
Well, corporate espionage. If one corporation or somebody within a corporation wants to know what's going on in another sector of the corporation, or of course, one corporation wants to know what a different corporation is doing, hacking their competitor's phone, learning about what types of business deals they're in, wanting to see what they're going to be putting out in the market soon. One corporation spying on another corporation, their business transactions, their deals, corporate espionage. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think we can, in my personal opinion, and this may just rain on everyone's parade, but this is the way I see it. If you're being surveillanced 24/7, it doesn't matter what preventatives you put on your phone. Like if you're being surveillance, they can see what you're typing into your phone. They can see your passwords. That's what I realized, that changing my password and all that doesn't even matter. So I'm hoping one of those tech savvy TIs out there will figure something out to kind of combat this.
Yeah. And a lot of things, and we can't forget, not only are our own phones being hacked into, but the networking and gang stalking is being used. Community neighborhood watch programs use community watch apps on their phone to alert other people in the neighborhood. And this is being utilized for the purposes of stalking people in the neighborhood. So a whole neighborhood of people will have, a community watch network on their phone, and they're all utilizing it to perpetuate the street terrorism. And that's a big thing that's going on right now. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's like, as our technology is being hacked and we're being messed with, and we're being targeted, other people are using technology to further target us in many other ways.
Sorry, that just reminded me. I think I missed the second half of what you said, because I just had my roommate go check the mail for me, because I tried to get on one of those neighborhood watch sites and to kind of peek in there, because they are being used to stalk people in the name of like neighborhood watch or whatever, or safety. And hold on one second. Aha, I got my postcard. So they sent me a postcard right now. I just got it. Giving me some sort of verification code to go on this neighborhood watch thing because I saw on someone's YouTube channel, they said to go in there and kind of poke around and see what's going on and see if you can figure anything out before, the cat gets let out of the bag that you're in the neighborhood watch group poking around.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, the second part I was saying was pertaining to that. I don't know, um, I said it twice, but you might have caught it the first time. I was saying that the community watch groups use app technology to coordinate the stalking harassment. So on the outside, like any good criminal organization does, on the outside, it looks like they're doing something productive and something safe for the area. But the internal mechanics of it is system is being used and it's used as a front to perpetrate the stalking and the harassment, getting everybody to turn their
Yeah,
house
that's
lights
what
on.
this is. This is for an app
Right.
called Nextdoor East Pacific.
Okay. Yep. See?
It says you can download on our iPhone or Android, sign in with your email, and they give me a verification code that expires in 3 days.
And so are you going to sign up and see what they're doing? Rachel?
Sorry, I was dealing with my child. Hold on.
Okay.
Michael! Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
What
No
was the
problem.
question?
Huh?
What was the last question?
Well, I was saying, are you going to sign up and see what's going on?
Yeah, I'm going to go on there and see if I see anything suspicious before I get flagged as suspicious.
No, I've seen people, I live in an area where I've been viciously and repeatedly stalked by people in the area, through things like this. But I've noticed that I'm not the only one. I met one other person that lives actually in the same city as me. He didn't even know what gang stalking was. He got a pamphlet in the mail, talked about a neighborhood watch group, and he felt it was silly. He put it on Facebook. Then he started getting stalked by his neighbors, doing brightening, following him everywhere he went. Even when he left the neighborhood, he had people following him around, and they were all wearing green shirts. And he said he didn't understand it. He didn't know what was happening. And I alerted him and I briefed him on what gang stalking was. And I gave him some level of foundation of education on the street terrorism, how it works. And he was able to gain some insight. There was a woman in the area that actually lived like on a street, a street I can see from my house, and she ended up getting put away in a psychiatric ward. She actually came to my home, and I wasn't here, but she spoke to somebody who was here, and she said that some of my neighbors had there was a thing going on where she was supposed to watch my driveway, so to speak, and make sure certain cars were not here, but it didn't make sense because nobody else lived here based on the description of the car she gave. So I guess her job was to watch my driveway. And then the woman started saying how she was being stalked and followed around by people. And then I guess the cops showed up and said something about the woman was delusional, and I mean maybe they believed the woman was delusional, who knows. But I guess the rumor is the woman ended up in a psychiatric ward. I don't know. I never met the woman, and I wasn't here when it happened. So I don't know what the mechanics of it were, but it was weird to say the least. It was very weird to say the least. So, I mean, there's been like weird activity going on with gang stalking, and there's a lot of people who it's like people are watching this from the outside and watching this happen to people, And there's people going to psychiatric wards. There's people getting put into like categories like they're paranoid and stuff. And I want to make another point that people oftentimes, just because somebody is mentally ill, that still does not mean that they're not being gang stalked either.
You have a really good point there. If
What
you
what
can, just because you're
yeah,
paranoid does not mean someone's not out to get you.
yeah, that's the interesting thing. See, when it came to the MK Ultra, when it came to the mind control experiments of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the CIA literally went into psychiatric wards, into prisons, and in hospitals, and they did experiments on people who were mentally ill. So being mentally ill or being psychotic does not discount somebody from being gang stalked. There probably are mentally ill people still being gang stalked.
And I really feel for them because we already question our reality as it is. And they're kind of getting a double whammy because not only is their own mind playing tricks on them, but other people are playing tricks on their mind as well. So it must be very hard to differentiate. But I'm sure they can overcome it, with the right coping mechanisms and education too.
Yeah, with the right coping mechanisms and right education, because we have to remember that there's people who have good jobs like Myron May. Myron May was an attorney. He ended up getting gang stalked. He ended up doing his last prayer on YouTube, showed up at a university, and just started shooting at people because he felt like he just felt overwhelmed by the whole situation. Right, he was exhausted, mentally exhausted, and he was a prime example how somebody who is educated with a successful career can end up doing something like that. And oftentimes people don't see those people who there's been police officers who've gotten gang stalked who ended up in mental institutions and stuff, but then there's actual people who are mentally ill already that this happens to. So I always tell people, you can't, just because somebody is mentally ill, it might still be going on. Somebody might be on drugs, they might be a crack cocaine smoker, or they may be smoking, they may be on a psychedelic. That doesn't mean they're still not being gang stalked. This is happening all over the world, and there's thousands of people on YouTube describing their experience of it.
Yes, I found it doesn't matter what background you're from, what race you are, what religion you are, what your profession is. I think there's someone in every single category across the entire world, and probably even multiple people in the really rare circumstances that, that's what I found. You don't have to fit a single profile to be gang stalked. You could be anybody.
And that's why education comes in at, and it's really scary because the man that I said that lives in the same city as me, he told me that some of his neighbors participating in this worked at community health. And I was just like, whoa. And, I was involuntarily placed into a psychiatric ward, and I was being gang stalked by the workers who worked there. So I know exactly how something like that can happen. And all I did was ask for a glass of water twice, and they had a signature from my mother after they asked her, did I complain about people following me around? And I had been getting gang stalked for a year and a half, so of course my mother heard me claiming that people were following me. So they got that from her and then got her to sign the paper. Then I asked for a glass of water twice after coming off a long, exhaustive walk. And basically, I got framed and put into a psychiatric ward for being delusional, and all I was doing was being stalked. And so, there's situations where they can make people look like there's something wrong with them, and then there's people who there's nothing wrong with them. Then there's people who there is something wrong with them, and they're still being stalked. So, education is essential because this is a dangerous area we're into. You may have people who are prone to violence, who are paranoid and dangerous already, and then when something like gang stalking starts, what's to stop them from going out and stabbing somebody or getting a gun and killing somebody? You're talking about, and society has no formal education on the subject, so there's no community leaders to prevent this from happening or to stop it when it is happening. That's the scary part. Rachel?
Sorry, I was my baby daddy ain't doing his job. No, I'm just kidding. The fireworks are going off, so I was just making sure that he's out there.
Right. Okay. I was just checking. To make sure you're still there. It is coming out of July 4th, and so it's a very exciting night, and the fireworks are going, and you are with your son, so I can imagine there is a sight to see out there. I was just making sure you were still on the line.
Yeah, you got me for 8 more minutes before I gotta go watch some fireworks.
Okay, that's fine. But I want to wrap it up on that concept. We're getting into phone hacking. We're getting into these different sorts of things happening. And so, what do you think is what is to be said for somebody? People have different mental capacities, and different people have different ways of reacting to stuff. Not everybody is going to create an educational course like me and you. Not everybody is going to build a wealth of experience and begin counseling people. Not everybody has the drive to go out and test the waters and create a strategy for dealing with this. Both me and you have done this, and you've been doing it in a very short amount of time. What's to be said for the people out there that are vulnerable, that have no education, their family members are a part of it, or have no education on it? There's no protection. What is to become of these people at risk?
What is to become of them?
Yeah.
They're going to end up in an institution or hurting themselves or others.
Right. They're going to end up in an institution, or they're going to hurt themselves or others, or maybe just stay isolated in their room, and staring off into space every day. But what do you see coming in the future? Me and you are going to meet up together. We're providing a space for people to come and learn, a 3-week course. We're providing a space for people to get the counseling they need. We're providing a space for people to get the education, the insight. And this may be a thing where people will feel help. People will feel gratitude, like, thank God, now I have somewhere that I can send my friend or my son or my father or my mother or my sister. Now there's people that they know will have some insight into the issue. Is that something you see coming in the future? People who are not being gang stalked, seeing an opportunity in the courses that we're putting down for people?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, that's very exciting and very interesting. I just wanted to leave it off on that note. We can close down now. I just wanted to make sure that people really realized the vulnerability that people are having out there, and that this isn't some funny thing that's happening to people. People in the public who don't understand this. This isn't some funny thing. There's people who are actually very vulnerable and susceptible to complete disaster. I mean, somebody might go get their head blown off tonight over gang stalking. Somebody may be getting gang stalked somewhere right now, and they're going to blow somebody's face off, and everybody's just sitting back letting that happen. They allow these things to happen by not getting involved in the remedy.
Yeah, my advice and what I hope these YouTubes are doing for people is getting with people to reach out, give Jamal a call, send him an email, leave a comment, anything, because he will get back to you. I'm not sure, I haven't reached out to any of the other people on the YouTube channels or any other support groups because I'm not aware of any out there for us. But I know if you call or email Jamil, he will get back to you in a very, very timely manner. So reach out if you're having any kind of issues or anything or just need to talk.
Right. Thank you so much, Rachel. They know I will get back to them, and we will get back to them. And they can donate $1, $5, $10, $100, $1,000. Every dollar will go to saving somebody's life. And we've covered everything here, Rachel. So if you want to close off at this time now, we can go. We did the Independence Day interview earlier, and now where you're at, it's still the 4th of July. Where I'm at, it's actually July 5th because it's approaching 1 o'clock. So that's cool. You're still on 4th of July, and I'm over 4th. So we got two different. That's really cool. we're on two different timelines with it.
Yes. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go ahead and shoot you a text here in about a half hour and see what's going on.
Okay, that sounds wonderful, Rachel. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you for having me on.
Yep. Good night. Talk to you later.